الحاضرين معنا مش يتكلموا بالإنجليزية، يعني ما يفهموش بالعربية، عندنا مترجم، مش نفتتح أنا بالإنجليزية، ومن بعد الحوار الكل إن شاء الله يكون بالعربية. داكوردو. Sidi, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today in this webinar on the elections in Tunisia. The elections are supposed to happen this Sunday, in less than a week. The opposition is still kind of divided about whether to participate in the elections or not, boycott the elections. So the discussions are very intense, even though we only have 5 days left. So today we have invited 3 personalities, 3 independent personalities who have written and published an appeal to the Tunisian people to participate in the election and to vote for Ayeshi Zammal as the only candidate who is left and who believes or has, at least has made commitments to restore democracy and the rule of law. And we also are very happy to have Mr. Mahdi Abdel Jawad, who is one of the leaders of the campaign for Ayeshi Zammal in Tunisia. He's joining us from Tunis. So if you want to listen to the interpreter in English, please click on the button below, which shows interpretation, and you can pick the language, English or Arabic. And in English, you'll be able to hear the interpreter because all the speakers will be speaking in Arabic today. So again, thank you for joining us. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. مرحبا بكم جميعا في هذه.
I welcome you all to this webinar. As you all know, we have presidential elections scheduled for less than 1 week in Tunisia on Sunday. And the opposition, unfortunately, is still divided until now on the point of participation in the elections. There are those who are calling for participation and others calling for a boycott. And we have called in this online webinar this evening. We have invited 3 activists and experts and thinkers from Tunisia who have published a call for saving Tunisia, in which they call Tunisians to participate in the elections and to vote for Ayeshi Zammal. We will listen to them soon regarding the causes of that call. We are also happy to have Mr. Mahdi Abdel Jawad, who is one of those leading the campaign of Ayeshi Zammal in Tunisia. The campaign is coming to an end, but we wanted to listen to Mr. Abdel Jawad about the campaign and what they have reached and whether there is any positive interaction with Tunisians with the campaign. We wanted to hear from him. We are happy to have you in this webinar. This is scripted, and the videos will be published after the end of this webinar. Every speaker will have between 8 to 10 minutes to present their opinion, and then we will open the floor for comments and questions from other participants who can ask or comment.
تتجاوز كل مداخلة 3 دقائق. إذا نبدأ مع سي مهدي.
We will start with Mr. Mahdi Abdel Jawad.
استجابة للدعوة.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. Can you give us a glimpse of the situation and the electoral campaign? What are your expectations for the coming Sunday? Welcome, Mr. Mahdi. Thank you, Dr. Radwan, and my greetings to the participants, and it's an honor to be with you. On behalf of the election campaign of candidate Ayeshi Zammal, In reality, this campaign is taking place in exceptional circumstances as a result of the exceptional circumstances that Tunisia has been experiencing since the 25th of July 2021. As you all know, the exceptional measures the exceptional measures that were taken on the 25th of July 2021 led the country towards a political crisis and a constitutional crisis and a socio-economic crisis that reached its height in the last 3 months when Qais Said believed that he had reached a stable situation and the elections will just be and that he will win it easily. But as a result of the work of political activists and civil society activists and the expressions of intentions of candidates and collecting endorsements and this exposed the crisis that Tunisia has been experiencing. Candidate number 3, Ayesh Zameli, belongs to the new generation of politicians who were enabled by the revolution to be involved in public affairs directly. Mr. Zamel comes from the background of investment and engineering from a rural area that had been forgotten by successive governments in Tunisia since Tunisia's independence. He is a chemical engineer, which is a choice he had taken since he was 11 years old. In his gym, he is currently he is an ambassador for Tunisian agriculture and Tunisian agriculture. He says that he came to politics because of 2 reasons. The first is that he believes that Tunisia has many opportunities for investment and production of wealth, and that Tunisians can live in a prosperous society, socially and economically. But he criticized traditional politicians for many years for focusing on political issues and not building a society building on political institutions. We failed to build the constitutional court and to take the necessary political reforms despite all the advances made by the elites and the political parties in the last 10 years. Ayesh Zamel was unknown by the majority of political activists, and perhaps because the fact that he was unknown has made it possible for him during the war of endorsements to be able to collect the endorsements. After the Electoral Commission accepted his file and dealt with him perhaps as a candidate who would just serve as a decor in the current elections. But since his first appearance on the 14th of August, he surprised everyone by clarifying that he has a vision and a project, an economic and political and social pledge, an ethical pledge that is inspired from the foundations of democracy and dreams of transforming Tunisia and completing the demand of the revolution for which Tunisians went onto the streets in 2011. He has a liberal political and economic background but believes in the state's social role. Since announcing his speech, he has faced countless allegations and he has been prevented from leading his electoral campaign, and he is now going from one detention center to another, from one court to another, from one prison to another, and between interrogations and meetings he has been He has spent 1 month without any contact with his family or the members of his campaign. These, of course, campaigns depend on the ability of candidates to present themselves, which is something he has not present himself to Tunisian citizens inside Tunisia and outside Tunisia. So we have faced many difficulties as the electoral campaign to present our candidate and his campaign. He has now been turned into a symbol of defending the right of Tunisians to be candidates and the right of Tunisians to choose. Democracy is the right of choice and the right to vote, and each citizen has a free vote, and based on the right to free choice. Preventing Aisha Zamel from leading his electoral campaign shows that the current failed regime is not only punishing Aisha Zamel, but punishing the Tunisian people as a whole and depriving them of the right to learn about Aisha Zamel and his program. Any choice that does not contain. So we have worked presenting our candidate and have turned his campaign into a citizen, horizontal, participatory campaign, a solidarity campaign. Tunisians do not accept injustice, though we have led an almost secret campaign, because in reality, these elections in Tunisia are more akin to a funeral, or there is no public debate, no discussions, no presenting of political platforms. These elections, the current regime has been forced to hold these elections, but he has sought to empty them of any content and turn them into a formality. Depriving Aisha Zamel's insistence on being a candidate has turned him into an icon for defending rights and freedom in Tunisia, and the dynamism that the collection of endorsements and the cancelling of candidacies and the decisions of the Electoral Commission by ignoring the decisions of the Administrative Court and the new law that removes the role of the Administrative Court from overseeing elections has all created a climate that expects and looks forward to change, to end all these injustices. Hence, we call on all Tunisian men and women to mobilize and turn out and vote on the 6th of October. We seek inspirations from the 2019 elections, where the slogan was to vote, to defend your right to choose and to change through the ballot boxes. Tunisians for 70 or 80 years, over decades, have been defending this right. There are several intellectual schools since the 50s and 60s of the last century defending the right of choice. And since the struggle of Tunisians under occupation for a free parliament. Now we do not have a free parliament. We have a parliament that is controlled by the president, and we just saw recently how this parliament in a record time passed the law presented by the president to remove the role of the administrative court from overseeing the result. We saw a folkloric formal campaign with scenes that Tunisians had thought they had left behind. These are all sites that Tunisians despise of practices that are only seen in places like North Africa. There is one other place that has the same themes, that is Tunisia. The political prisoner Ayesh Zamel and the efforts of his campaign and the unprecedented solidarity campaign from Tunisians. And I would like to thank all activists, all civil society activists and political activists who have expressed their solidarity with Ayesh Zamel, who are not defending him only, but their right and the right of all Tunisians to free choice and to vote on the 6th of October. We believe in our campaign through the vote for Ayesh Zamel is an opportunity for Tunisians to end this populism and fascism that is expanding and despising Tunisians and only achieved economic failure and diplomatic isolation. And we believe this is an opportunity to turn a page and to start a new phase, an end to injustice. And that this is why Ayesh Zamel on last Saturday, through the members of his campaign, presented a political contract, a political pledge, starting by ending the application of the new constitution to release all political and civil and all bloggers and journalists and all political prisoners, to organize a national dialogue conference and to organize legislative elections within 1 year and to establish a constitutional court, independent judicial council within 6 months. Ayesh Zamel believes that Tunisia deserves a democratic life and its people deserve to live in dignity, and that there is no other chance, there should be no other chance for any dictator to rule Tunisians by force, and that this country has no chance to be developed except where every Tunisian can live in dignity and without injustice, and that the state should not use state services to persecute the opposition. This is something that Tunisians have left behind since 2011. We are living through democratic backsliding. We believe that Ayesh Zamel, through his determination and persistence, he says that we should turn the page without tearing the whole book apart. We turn a page of division and hate and imprisonments and prisons, and we open a new page of democracy, human rights, freedoms, and prosperity without destroying the whole system. But we learn from our mistake, because in building our democratic systems, we did not listen to each other. There were shortcomings within the political elite. And if the 25th of July has any benefit, it is that it made us realize that we have made mistakes and we should have built bridges between different political fronts, and that human rights should be the foundation, and that our democratic experience should be strengthened by building strong institutions, a judicial council, and reforming the media. There was a long delay in all these reforms. These are great challenges that cannot be undertaken by Ayesh Zamel. They need national unity. We are all different and diverse, and that is a blessing, and we should benefit from that blessing to build Tunisia's future. I conclude by calling on everyone to call for the release of political prisoner Ayesh Zamel. I believe that it does not befit Tunisia's image within Africa and within its Arab Islamic environment, and for to have Ayesh Zamel in prison. He should be out defending his political program. To call for his release is a demand, and we believe that he will come out from prison to the presidential palace. We believe that the prisoner is not the one in prison, but the one who is in the palace, who is a prisoner to his hatred and his illusions. The one who is free is Tayesh Zaman, because he has a vision and he had trust in the Tunisian people. If you believe in freedom, you are free, and you are a dictator, then you are subject to your oppression. And history is full of such example. And I believe that Tayesh Zaman deserves respect and support. And boycotting the elections would serve the current regime because they want to put Tunisians off engagement in politics. This is our chance to build a democratic Tunisia hand in hand towards dealing with climate change, scarcity of water and food, and to build a prosperous society that can only be built with looking forward with a state that is able to create and to overcome these crises and to bring all talents together. There are thousands of people who are fleeing Tunisia, and it is time to attract those back. Tayesh Zaman is the son of this country. He has lived in Mansoura and studied in the engineering school and used the Tunisian public transport, and he's a successful citizen, an ethically upright person. Had he been corrupt, they would have been able to find things to expose within all his companies, but they have not been able to find anything. That's why they are fabricating ridiculous charges against him. Tayesh Zaman has conveyed a message through his lawyers that this experience has allowed him to discover the conditions in Tunisian prisons, and that one of his main priorities after this experience is to rebuild a new prison system and to review the current justice system and judicial system in Tunisia that will befit Tunisians and their dignity. Tayesh Zaman today is now more informed of the finest details in the prison's administration, and as he had done with the administration, he represents a real opportunity for Tunisians to look to the future and call everyone to support him and vote for him on the 6th of October. And on the 7th of October, this will be the end of this plight. And thank you. I thank you for your presentation, and I hope it will be heard and answered. Now we will listen to the former head of the Lawyers Association, Abdelrazak Al-Kilani. He has occupied those of minister and ambassador to the I greet you and your guests and all attendees and all participants in this webinar. In reality, it's difficult for me to speak of the systematic presentation given by my colleague, by Mr. Abdel Shawed, which represents a program, an electoral platform of the candidate Tayesh Zaman, who I personally support. for objective reasons, not for any personal reasons, because our country, as everyone knows, after 5 years of the rule of the outgoing president, including 3 years of one-man authoritarian rule, and after an objective evaluation of that period, if done by any sane person, they would be able to see that our country is the worst time it has seen a phase when almost all gains have been dismantled, and most importantly, the gain of freedom of opinion, freedom of expression for thousands of generations of Tunisians have sacrificed. We see the best of Tunisian men and women being thrown into prison, their families being harassed. I summarize this phase as where Qais Said wants to muzzle and silence all critical voices, all those who criticize his coup of 25th of July 2021, when he usurped almost all powers and dissolved parliament and dissolved the Supreme Judicial Council, and he became the sole ruler. Today, in my opinion, we have a rare chance that could enable us to change the situation, despite the conditions that have been described by Mr. Abdel Jawad that are very far from free and fair elections. However, we insist on this final chance because we consider ourselves to be in resistance against a dictatorship, against an unjust regime that does not want to hear any critical opinion, a regime under which we have lived for a very bad phase where we have not seen any achievement. We have only seen words and words of division and incitement and using the worst labels of agent and traitor against Tunisians. All that comes from the head of the coup is all such accusations. Today, our will, as you know, the will of the people can be expressed through the ballot box. And this is stipulated by all international accords, particularly the Charter of Political and Civil Rights, that citizens have the right to participate in public affairs directly or through representatives that are chosen freely. So citizens have the right to put forward candidates and to vote freely in regular, free and fair elections that guarantee the free expression of the will of voters. However, unfortunately, what we have seen recently, we have seen how Qais Said has imprisoned the most prominent competitors, and then we saw how those who were not imprisoned for various reasons, including the fact that two are outside Tunisia and who could not be imprisoned, 3 other candidates of real competitors who contested the decisions of the Electoral Court, obtained a decision from the Administrative Court that allows them to be reintegrated in the electoral race. Unfortunately, this Electoral Commission that calls itself the Independent Electoral Commission, but which is in fact neither supreme nor independent, this commission refused to submit to the decisions of the Administrative Court, which is something that has never been seen before, that Electoral Commission that is under judicial oversight does not accept to apply the decision. And the following scandal, where 1 week before the elections, so on Friday, the 27th of September, Parliament voted on a law draft which removes the Administrative Court from its competence in electoral disputes and moves that to other courts. And we all know why, because Qais Said can control the other criminal courts through the decrees he had himself issued, which allow him to dismiss and punish judges, and through his justice minister who controls the judiciary through deciding on the moving judges and appointing judges. So we are living through a very critical phase. And that is why from here I address all voters in Tunisia. I address all Tunisians. I address all Tunisian voters also who live outside Tunisia, who will be voting starting from the 4th of October, 4th and October. I call on them not to boycott the elections, to participate in the elections. I know there are climates of fear and terror lived, particularly inside Tunisia. We saw how bloggers and activists on social media, on Facebook, etc., we have seen how people can find themselves in prison for a simple post, simply for criticizing the dictator, the leader of the coup. I wish to say to those who are calling for boycott, a boycott is never the solution. We have seen how, in our own experience, how we boycotted the legislative elections and the referendum on the constitution, and despite the very weak participation rate, and it is said in non-official numbers that participation was not above 5%, and officially, as you all know, the number was 11%. Despite all that, Qais Said, until now, he is still governing. In fact, to the contrary, it was in his own interest. Those who he's not happy that people are now participating in the elections. He's criticizing us. As he said, why did they not pay any attention to the legislative elections, and now they want to participate in the presidential elections? So now when he sees Democrats uniting and discussing these elections and the possibility of falsification and rigging these elections, there are those who say we should not participate because these elections will be rigged. If we do go and participate in big numbers, in hundreds of thousands and millions, then it would become impossible for the president and those around him to rig these elections. But if he dares and falsifies the results, then we would then have an argument and a reason to defend our votes and the legitimacy, the legal and constitutional legitimacy given to us by constitutions and by the law and by international accords. And hence, finally, I say that we should vote for this man who I can't add any more to present him. I know him personally. He was against the coup. He is a Democrat. His slogan, as you know, is to turn a page, start a new phase, to turn a page to what has been done, the crimes done against the Tunisian people by the coup in the last 5 years of this presidency. And as you know, he has presented a pledge committing to political ethics of consultation and dialogue, and to build all his work as a president on institutions and the rule of law. Thank you. Thank you for your valuable presentation. Now we have Mr. Fathi Abdelbaki. He is a political and human rights activist from Paris. You have 7 to 8 minutes. Thank you, Dr. Radwan. I greet you and your guests and all those following this discussion, this webinar. I wish to say that the battle against the coup started since the 25th of July 2021 at 11 p.m. when Qais Said began his infamous speech in which he announced his coup against the constitution, particularly freezing parliament, dissolving the legitimate government, dissolving state institutions one after the other. Of course, everyone was watching and hesitating. There's a minority that began to resist this coup, and that started expanding, and now the vast majority of the Tunisian people rejects this populist trend, which can only lead to the dissolution of the state and to chaos. In this context, if you remember Mr. Radwan and Mr. Kilani, since January 24, we called on all the opposition to hold discussions and to unite and meet around one candidate who can bring Tunisia from out of this nightmare and this crisis. However, there was great hesitation, which we noticed, particularly the main parties. This all made Qais Said delay the announcement of the date of the elections until he found himself forced to announce on the 4th of July 2024. Many were hesitant and were saying that engaging in these elections is to recognize this coup and the constitution of Qais Said. However, the truth is the opposite completely, because Qais Said, what he wants is for the opposition to boycott these elections and he is and to hold a sham elections on his own, and to have the current rival who supports his parliament, supports his constitution, supports his coup, and who has members in the current government and who has never been harmed in any way. And this is a big question for candidate Mr. Zuhair al-Makhzawi. While all the rest of the opposition have suffered, and there are currently hundreds in prison, and all prominent political leaders led by Speaker of Parliament, of the legitimate elected parliament, are all in prison, and they're hostages, they're held as hostages, and we do not know how they could be released. Hence, I would like to say that the Electoral Commission in its leadership is part of the coup. It is not an electoral commission. It is, in fact, a part of Qais Said's electoral campaign. I'm saying the leadership of the Electoral Commission, not all members who are overseeing the elections. Because from what we have heard and have seen on the page of the Electoral Commission, the EC, that the majority of voting branches have people who have overseen previous elections, and we know that the previous elections had not witnessed any falsification, or particularly even including the referendum. And for Qais Said's parliament, the results were legitimate, and those who oversaw those elections did so honestly and properly. And here I would like to reassure people, since I was in charge of overseeing the elections in 2019 in Paris, and they were very difficult, but we were successful in organizing those elections. What is more important is that the voting bureaus, at the end of voting, it is a legal requirement for the head of that election bureau to present after the signing of the report by all members of that election bureau. And it is also obligatory for the Electoral Commission to publish all the counting reports from all the branches on its page. And we believe this is one of the main guarantees for these. And we believe that Qais Said and his accomplices would find it very difficult to falsify the results. So I would like to reassure citizens and reassure those who are hesitant and those who are calling for boycotting the elections. Of course, there will be irregularities. We're not in an ideal state. In some voting bureaus, there might be people who can all members of that branch could be Qais Said supporters who can fill ballot boxes with their own ballots. I would like to also point out another dangerous possibility, that Tunisians abroad have now been told that they can vote from any voting bureau, any country. They can just present their passport, even if it's expired, and they have the right to vote wherever they wish. And then their name would be recorded by hand in a parallel list And what is worse, there'll be no cross-checking of information, which is very dangerous. The ink could become removed on the day. I don't want to scare people, but I would like to just warn people and those who are in charge of voting bureaus that they should be very vigilant. I would like to address those who are boycotting the elections, because there are now many political figures, well-known and influential figures, who are now calling for voting for Mr. Ayesh Zamel, who, in our view, is a successful young Tunisian with a vision, who has been bringing wealth to Tunisia, which is something good, because creation of wealth is a science and intelligence and hard work. It cannot be done easily by anyone. And when I first listened to Mr. Ayesh Zamel as a head of an institution and a company, I understood immediately that he could win. He has this management culture, particularly of influencing and managing those who work with him to be able to achieve a positive result at the end of the year. In Tunisia, every year we have had a negative result. I want to address Tunisians abroad in particular, because for Qais Ayed, they are second-class citizens. Why? And this is an important point that many people may not be aware of, because in his 2022 constitution, Tunisians abroad have been deprived of their civic and constitutional rights to be candidates in any local council. They cannot, someone who has a second of the country of their residence, and we all know it is something positive and important and recommended in order to defend the rights of Tunisians and Arabs in their countries of residence. Qais Sayed and his group, using populist language, they succeeded to demonize this achievement of Tunisians abroad. There are around 1 million Tunisians or more who have dual nationality. So more than 1 million Tunisians have been deprived of their civil right, and I call on Tunisians abroad to mobilize and vote to restore their rights, and to have the right to contribute to the development of their country. I know a surgeon here in Tunisia, Dr. Mohamed Ghanam, is quite well known. He's the head of heart surgery department. He says that he is sorry, that he is from Qarwan, that I will be retired. I will go back to Tunisia, to the rural areas of Qayrawan. I will not be able to stand as a candidate to be a member of a local council, because he has dual nationality, and he will be deprived by Qais Sayed of the right, and that is a crime. And I call on Mr. Mehdi to focus on this point as well, because it's very important that it should be part of Mr. Ayesh Zamel's program to restore the rights of Tunisians residing abroad. I say to Tunisians in Tunisia that they should not fear Qais Sayed's militias, funded through his and that they should vote to bring this to an end that has made Tunisia a mockery around the world and has placed it at the bottom of international leagues, whereas during the decade of freedom, it was at the highest levels, and foreigners were inspired by Tunisia, whereas now Tunisia's image has been darkened by Kais Saied, and on the 6th of October, Tunisians should go out and vote for candidate Hayashi Zamel. The last speaker is Mokdad al-Majri. Thank you, Dr. Radwan, and to my fellow speakers. When Mr. Abdel Jawad spoke, he said an important word. He said that these elections are taking place in secret. And I believe that this important event and this imminent danger threatening our country, if this dictator renews, this should make us we should not see elections that are taking place in secret, where Ayash Zameli is in prison. We should not have a normal election campaign. And I call on everyone as soon as possible. Our discussion should be not to present Ayash Zamel and what he could offer us, although that is also important. People ask what are the guarantees that could be presented by Ayash Zamel. But in this context, I think the focus should not be on what Ayash Zamel can give us, but on the dangers and catastrophes that await us in the economic and social and political fields if Kais Saied's, the current dictator's presidency, is renewed for another 5 years. I think magnitude of the current threat of another 5 years of Kais Saied's mismanagement, I say, in my opinion, while Ayash Zamel is in prison, how can we create, it's a question to everyone listening and to all Tunisians, how can we innovate new out-of-the-box solutions, new solutions to support Ayash Zamel in a way that befits elections that are taking place in secret and that befit the magnitude of the crimes committed in Kais Saied's parliament by removing the oversight by the administrative court. We are in a new context. We are not in a normal elections with the normal rules of the game, with fair arbiters. We are before a man who wants to control all powers and all institutions. We are facing the assassination of a country. And in such a context, how we should all be focusing on saving saving the country. But when you walk by a street and find an accident, everyone turns into a first aider. If you see a fire in your neighbor's house, you turn into a fireman. We need the mobilization of everyone to ask how we can support Ayesh Zamel in such record time. I don't think there is sufficient time. There are no debates and panels unlike previous elections. There is a central question here that I would like to focus on. What are the forms of support that we can create and innovate that are out of the box so that we can guarantee and we present right now in record time before the 6th of October? I say that we have very little time. Just as Ayesh Zamel's slogan is that we should turn the page without burning the whole book, we have 1 week, and the challenge is to unite the political elite and all activists. How we to unite everyone on one position. We should have a certain degree of courage for 1 day. This is the image I have in mind. Perhaps it can motivate people for voters whom we cannot reach through Tunisian media. We don't have equal opportunities for all candidates as there should be. We need to try and answer this question, and I hope we can hear questions from other panelists and from all participants about new methods that we can use to deal with this great challenge of these elections. I would like you to start by giving us some of your own answers to these questions as a media presenter of what can be done in these remaining 5 days for running this campaign. What could be done in the remaining time? By next Thursday, for instance, we should organize a joint meeting. Everyone should contact influential figures and to organize a common meeting in 1 day at 1 time to create the united image that we need. Everyone can contact influential people they know, those who can create videos. And I think more than just speaking about Ayesh Zamel, we need to talk about the current dictator who has imposed his rule on Tunisians. We need a united position, regardless of the methods of expression. We need a clear and strong stance that can motivate and attract public opinion to realize the danger that can be renewed for another 5 years, and to push people to turn out and choose Ayesh Zamel. We have 15 minutes. we need a symbolic stance, which perhaps could be in front of prison. We need to think about how this can be done, to think about the details of that united position, whether it is in a protest. It should be thought-provoking. It should motivate people to be engaged and to vote. We have some comments. We start. If anyone has any questions or comments. One question to Ayesh Ismail. How can activists and various actors, how can we contribute and help to convey this message to the Tunisian people and convince them to participate and to vote on Sunday? If you have any suggestions or ideas, Mr. Mehdi. Thank you. It's clear what is required is to encourage people to participate and vote for candidate number one. All unofficial surveys we have seen show that in case of a higher turnout, then the chances of winning from the first round become possible. Everyone should contact their family, their friends, their influencers, anyone they trust, to urge them to vote on the 6th of October. There is no solution to save the country. There aren't many available solutions. It's not about just a battle of ideas or programs. There is a single challenge, that is to vote, and the more people come out to vote, we need to vote those who are hesitant and reassure them and provide guarantees. Our campaign has engaged in discussions with various political parties. We have pledged. Now the ball is in the game of influencers and political parties, and they need to decide and make their decision clear. There is not much time left. There is no time now for protests. We need to all come out in big numbers and to convince as many Tunisians inside Tunisia and outside Tunisia to vote. Today, Ayesh Ismaili is persevering despite all harassment, and the campaign is also working hard, and the rest is to be done by decision by influencers and prominent people to motivate and urge people to use the ballot box as another method of change and another method of exposing the reality of this regime. It's a new opportunity for restoring democracy. There's another question that is asked by many people. How to guarantee that there will be no rigging? As a campaign, for instance, have you been allowed to have observers in every voting bureau in order to guarantee that there will be no falsification? There is no possibility of falsifying results. These elections are not something new. We've seen them in 2011, 2014, 2018, 2019, and all those showed that there can be no falsification of the will of the people. Local and regional commissions are not homogeneous. They cannot change everyone in one go. There are observers from civil society. We have presented lists of observers and we are in negotiation with the Electoral Commission, although we believe that they're going to reject our observers. But we insist again that turning a huge turnout will prevent any rigging. And Tunisians should come out in big numbers and should be vigilant against any possibility of falsifying the votes. Thirdly, even if they were to rig, if they seem to be desperate and nervous and making many mistakes, I reassure Tunisians that they will be protected and that on the 6th of October, if they turn out in big numbers, we will have a great opportunity to end this turn a page completely. Mr. Jalal, civil society activist residing in Geneva. Good evening to all participants. We are very late, very late in taking a clear decision on whether to vote for Ayesh Zamel or to boycott these elections. I have just registered as an observer in the Geneva voting bureau as part of Ayesh Zamel's campaign. I'm not sure now what will happen, whether I will receive anything from the campaign. I'm not sure whether I will receive anything from the Electoral Commission itself or whether I will receive some confirmation from the Ayesh Zamel's campaign. I would like to hear an answer. Secondly, I see that there is a lack of clarity. There are people who are still talking about boycotting, others talking about voting. There is no clear recommendation from the opposition or from the National Salvation Front or the other opposition fronts or from any political party that's on the political scene in Tunisia or outside Tunisia. What is the solution? What's everyone supposed to do? Whether it is through, maybe everyone should publish something like a video saying, I'm voting for Ayesh Zamel. We need such messages on Facebook and Instagram and other social media. We still don't know how we're supposed to act. I still don't know what I'm supposed to do. There's no time left, as if there were no elections taking place. It's such a huge contrast with how the last elections took place in Geneva, all the debates and discussions and in cafes and all places, we're back to zero, back to the 90s. No media, no radios, no TV panels, no meetings. You feel as if there's nothing happening. There are maybe just 5% planning to vote. I don't know if there's any solution. We're all looking for something to do. We need a clear recommendation for everyone to vote for Zemen and for everyone to vote. I second all you have said, that political parties need to make a clear decision. This indecision and silence and hesitation is a danger for the elections and for a real historic chance to bring Fayyad's phase to an end and start a new phase. I am personally surprised that Ennahda has still not published its decision on the necessity of participation, because a boycott would only benefit Qais Said. This is exactly what he wants, for everyone to stay at home and boycott, and only for his supporters to go and vote, which we all know through surveys that they only represent 10% of the people, and that way he will easily win without needing to falsify the results. So I call on all political parties and Nahda on the National Salvation Front, on the Democratic Current, on the Republican Party, and all parties that believe in democracy, that they should not waste this historic opportunity. There are still those who call for a boycott, and I believe it's clear that this will not be useful. They still believe there will be a popular revolution, but that is not for sure. I believe that if we go on Sunday and if there is any rigging, it will be flagrant and clear, and that would convince people to go out and protest when their votes are falsified. But to boycott the elections, and what would justify expecting a revolution? If you boycott and you do not participate, the people will say that you have not done anything. I hope that there will be the opposition. I hope the opposition will be united, and I commend Itilaf al-Karama, their statement calling for voting for Ayesh al-Zaman, because a boycott will only benefit Qais Said. This is a positive and good position taken by Itilaf al-Karama. All the previous candidates who wanted and tried to take part and who were prevented, they should support Ayesh al-Zaman. This is an opportunity to unite, to bring this coup to an end. It's true that you have been wronged, and you have our support and solidarity in the cases, and you are bringing forward, because it is true that these elections are not free and fair. However, we want a vote. We want all Tunisians with all its sections to come out and vote for Ayesh al-Zaman, and please do not waste this chance that we have been awaiting for 5 years, because we as a people have made a mistake, and as political parties, for voting for Qais Said. Now we have a chance to correct that mistake. Please do not waste that chance. Now all speakers have a chance to say a final word. Also regarding Jalal Matri's question about registering to be an observer in Geneva, do you have any recommendations for what he should do and others who want to be observers in these elections? There are many who are in the same situation from the Netherlands, from France, from Tunisia, but we have many problems with the Electoral Commission, which is a commission that is not independent. There are many complications. We have to see what can be done tomorrow and the following day. We will see what can be done about observers. I call on everyone not to wait for political parties. Citizens should call on each other and urge each other to go out and vote. This is a citizen movement and a wide wave of solidarity with Ayesh men. And parties can take their time. The last perhaps